The primary means of establishing warm season turf grasses on golf courses is through sprigging or stolonizing. Bermuda grass, seashore paspalum, or St. Augustine grass are the primary warm season turf grasses that are sprigged. Sprigging is a vegetative means of propagating a plant. For example, since hybrid Bermuda grass like Tifway or Tifway 2 or the ultra dwarfs are sterile, which means they do not produce viable seed, the only way to establish or propagate is via vegetative parts. Sprigs and stolons are individual plants or sections of plants containing several nodes from which new plants may develop. Both are void of soil. The basic difference between sprigs and stolons is the method of planting rather than the planting material itself. There are two methods of establishing vegetative stolons, sprigging and stolonizing. The first method we are going to look at is sprigging. As an example of sprigging, we will look at a sprigging operation a number of years ago at Seminole Golf Club. Donald Ross designed Seminole Golf Club and it opened in 1929. I'm going to take a step back and mention site preparation prior to sprigging. In this case, the fairways, which are being renovated, were initially rototilled to remove as much of the old Bermuda grass as possible. Here is just another shot of the old vegetation being removed. After removing the material, the fairway bed is smooth. A fine grading prior to sprigging is done as shown here. I put this photograph in more for historical purposes. A common practice at the time was to treat the area to be sprigged with methyl bromide. Methyl bromide is injected under the plastic cover shown here. Methyl bromide is an odorless, colorless gas used to control a wide variety of pests in agriculture and shipping, including fungi, weeds, insects, nematodes, for example. Methyl bromide is injected about 2 feet into the ground to sterilize the soil before the crops, or in this case, turf, was vegetatively established. Although the soil is covered with plastic tarps immediately after a treatment, 50 to 95% of the methyl bromide eventually enters the atmosphere. In the atmosphere, methyl bromide depletes the ozone layer and allows increased ultraviolet radiation to reach the Earth's surface. Methyl bromide is a Class 1 ozone-depleting substance as defined by the Montreal Protocol on Substances deplete the ozone layer. Methyl bromide is banned for use. Now other soil sterilants are used, or many golf courses will kill their existing turf with glyphosate prior to reestablishing. After the site has been prepared for golf course fairways or larger areas, a sprigging machine is used. Sprigs are fed into a chute and then deposited into furrows in the soil surface dug with one or more triangular knives. The furrows are filled in through the action of a V-shaped section of steel positioned between the furrows. A roller on the back of the machine levels and firms up the bed. Here you can see the sprigs were sliced into the furrows. Watering needs to be started immediately because these sprigs are soilless stolons and desiccation can occur quickly. This is a close-up of the sprigs inserted into the furrows, and through the action of the sprigging machine is able to close the furrow, followed by a rolling. This ensures the sprigs are in contact with the soil. Sprigs are usually planted 2 to 3 inches deep in furrows spaced 6 to 12 inches apart. Each sprig should have at least 2 to 4 nodes. The seeding rate for sprigging is 1 to 4 bushels per 1,000 square feet. Yes, that is right, a bushel, like a bushel of corn or apples. In the southeastern United States, sprigs are sold by the Georgia bushel. A Georgia bushel is a volume of sprigs. 1 square yard of hybrid Bermuda grass sod usually produces 1 Georgia bushel of sprigs. The second bushel is based on the Texas bushel, but for this class we won't worry about a Texas bushel. Stolonizing is broadcast sprigging and is done by hand. The sprigs are spread uniformly across the prepared soil bed. The soil bed should be firm and not fluffy. A fluffy seed bed will dry out quickly, increasing the likelihood of sprig failure due to desiccation. After spreading, partially disc, top dress, roll, and irrigate. The stolonizing rate is considerably higher than sprigging. As an example, this practice tee on a golf course in Naples, Florida is being stolonized. The stolonized sprigs are lightly disked into the soil and rolled. Top dressing is often done immediately after stolonizing. One comment with regard to sprigging or stolonizing rates. Sprigging rates used on golf courses tend to be higher than just the standard rates previously mentioned for just general sprigging large areas. This is most obvious with establishing ultra dwarfs on putting greens. On tees and fairways, their rates have increased too beyond the previously mentioned ones. Generally, getting a turf cover more quickly justifies the increased cost. How long does it take to establish a sprigged or stolonized turf? That all depends on a number of factors, including climate, time of establishment, and management practices. Describing a timeline for establishment, I will use this cricket field in Kenya as my example. Actually, I don't know much about cricket or how it's played, but where these men are stolonizing is in the inner infield known as the pitch. Further out, surrounding the infield, is the outfield. This is a few weeks later. You can see the rectangular area, or where the pitch will be, has been sprigged at a higher rate than outside the pitch. These men are removing weeds. It takes about 5 to 8 weeks for a sprigged or stolonized field to establish, depending on the climate and management practices. Again, within the tape is the inner portion or pitch for cricket. Here the pitch is mowed, and at this time the field is not completely covered yet and not ready for play. These last couple of photographs, along with the following, were sent to me by a colleague after I left Africa. The stolons are spread and filled in, producing a dense turf. Clean quality sprig selection is important. Sprigs that are contaminated with weed parts can lead to a weedy infestation, requiring hand labor to get the weeds out in this case. Here the pitch is being prepared. The pitch is where they throw or bounce the ball and a batter tries to hit it. Preparing the pitch is an intensive practice that requires considerable attention to getting just the right bounce and playability. And finally, a cricket match. The main concern, beyond making sure prior to spraying that the site is prepared properly and any deficient nutrient levels have been corrected, newly sprigged or stolonized turf needs to be kept adequately moist or wet. This is especially important when sprigging is being done in late spring or summer, where the risk of the sprigs desiccating is high. Water is applied within 30 minutes after sprigging. The turf is continually watered multiple times during the day to prevent any drying out and death of the stolons. Compared to seed establishment, conditions are kept much wetter.